We are live. Welcome, dear Alan. Welcome. Welcome to the House of Trust live stream. Today, a dear friend, Alan Laubsch. Welcome, dear Alan. Happy to have you here.
Thank you, Steph. Awesome to be here.
Now, for all the ones who don't know Alan yet, a short introduction. Alan is a risk management thought leader and natural capital pioneer. His mission is to enable an earth-positive economy, which includes nature in global accounting systems. Alan has over 2 decades of risk management experience, advising global finance institutions, and was a founding member of the RiskMetrics Group, now MSCI, where the authored Risk Management, a Practical Guide 1999 was established. Alan started his career at JPMorgan in New York after receiving a BS degree in industrial engineering at Stanford University in 1993. Alan is an avid surfer and ocean lover. And what I would like to quote is this beautiful statement from Marie Minister, the CEO of Shift Business Festival. She said beautifully, Alan is an inspiration when it comes to doing business more intelligently, saving the planet while still making profit. That's something I truly believe every business should be doing. There's always an option. And with that, I say, welcome, dear Alan. On a personal note, I want to speak out my appreciation, dear Alan. You were a mentor, an advisor, a friend in many, many moments the last 8-9 years on the journey of Yes We Trust. Always somebody I was able to count on. And whenever I had a question where I was not able to find an answer, you were the one person that I always was able to come back to. So thank you so much, Alan.
Really, it's an honor to be able to help you, Steph. And I've always believed in you, and just happy to see you thrive with doing what you love.
Thank you so much. Now, Alan, you started your career at JPMorgan and became part of the founding team of RiskMetrics. Today, you're advocating for an Earth-positive economy. Looking back, what is the thread that connects those two versions of Alan?
Well, I summarize my career in one sentence. I started off as a corporate risk manager, and now I'm a planetary risk manager, right? So I joined JPMorgan's Risk Management Group to really figure out how not to blow up the bank, and better understand risk, measure risk, and manage risk. And I feel like I'm doing this now more on a planetary scale, right? We need nature to be healthy for us to not blow up the planet. So what we need now is really planetary risk management to make sure that the vital ecosystems are protected and thriving for us to thrive as well.
So true. Now, Alan, when you were 25, how did you define success?
When I was 25, I'd been working at JPMorgan for a couple of years. That was quite a while ago. And at that point in time, I'm starting my career. Success was succeeding in my career and achieving a certain level of financial success as well. And we were just within JPMorgan starting on this, on incubating the idea of actually spinning off our division into RiskMetrics. And of course, I wanted that venture to be successful and for us to really make an impact with it.
How do you define success today, Alan?
Success to me now is much more of a state of being. It's being in flow, loving my life, and really, continually growing and becoming the best version of myself.
Was there a specific moment, Alan, when you realized that the financial system was measuring the wrong things?
Yeah, we lived through quite a few financial crises. The biggest one, of course, was the global financial crisis, where we started publishing reports at RiskMetrics in 2006 on the subprime real estate bubble. And we all know what happened with that, all the major banks failing and so on. And it became really apparent to me that we're not very good at collective risk management. During that same time, I became increasingly more concerned about climate risk and the destruction of the rainforests, all the different ecosystems that are so vital for biodiversity, for carbon sequestration, water cycles, all of that. And looking at the data that the IPCC had published, seeing how we had exceeded some scenarios that they had predicted would happen in 2050, in 2017. And I saw there's something really, not right in the way that we're handling the destruction of our natural capital and the impact on our well-being. So I started going into climate risk significantly, doing a lot of research on that, and it was eye-opening, really eye-opening. Looking at the actual social cost of carbon, for example, every ton of carbon that we emit, creating a huge amount of damage, and then at the same time, realizing that there are some incredible solutions, nature-based solutions, planting trees, mangroves, and whatever, that can mitigate this risk for really pennies on the dollar. And I thought, it's actually it's completely crazy that we're not actually doing that when we can mitigate so much harm at such a low cost. As a risk manager, it's like, this is, you have an incredibly effective solution here to mitigate risk with nature-based solutions. What surprises me is just how long it's taken for us to really do something quite substantial. Other things that I found out is, I looked at the Stern report. He published a groundbreaking report looking at the impact on climate on our economy looking forward. And there's some pretty devastating scenarios. They might be decades ahead, but we're talking about potential total collapse of world economy, civilization, GDP shrinking by 5% a year. And then he made an estimate of what it would cost to mitigate that risk. He said, what, if just the developed world puts about 1% of their GDP into just preventing deforestation, we mitigate a lot of this risk. And I thought it was extraordinary. I looked into that. And he was right. If we invest in the right nature-based solutions, whether it's protecting rainforests or mangroves, watersheds, things like that, you can get an impact that is tremendous. But we've never, and so his estimate was right at the time. About 1% of GDP, could move us from a degenerate economy that's really destroying our future well-being to one that's actually regenerative, where we start to move towards a healing, healthy, thriving planet. And to me, it was just an incredible light bulb moment to realize, why don't we do that? We spend a lot more money on wars and lots of other things. Let's get that going.
Is this today the case? Is 1% allocated?
The cost keeps increasing the longer we wait, but absolutely, yeah. I mean, these are incredibly effective solutions, right? So, I've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Arne Fjørtoft for the Worldview Foundation. He's an incredible pioneer, journalist, politician, and from Norway, who basically at the age of 80 was planting mangroves in Myanmar. And so he's planting these mangroves for, $1 a mangrove. And, the amount of value that he creates with that in terms of the biodiversity, the carbon, the, coastal resilience, livelihoods. Every dollar invested in a project like that creates $100+ of positive impacts. So absolutely, I firmly believe that if we choose the right solutions and do it well, with local communities in mind, with an understanding of ecosystems, so not just planting monoculture trees, but really just helping ecosystems thrive with that knowledge, and making it right for local communities. If we put even close to 1% of our world economy, we would start to move into a regenerative economy.
Was there a moment, Alan, when you started seeing nature loss as perhaps the biggest unpriced risk of all?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned to you, around the time of the global financial crisis, where I was really focusing on unpriced and underpriced risks, and it just became so clear that that this is something that the market had pretty much completely ignored, that will have existential impacts in the future, right?
What would surprise your younger Wall Street self most about the person you have become today?
What would surprise the Wall Street the Wall Street person? Gosh, yeah, I think I think it would be it'd probably be surprised that I'm living in Portugal and enjoying surfing as much as I do, and that I'm quite happy not being in an office and being much more in nature.
I love your forest, by the way. And Alan, I mean, there are not many people that I look up to and say one day I want to be like them, but you are one of them, and so you are an inspiration in different ways. And do you have an explainable life philosophy, or has it just appeared organically?
Life philosophy. I've always been really interested in Eastern mysticism, Taoism, Buddhism. That's really kind of guided my path very much. I believe that we're here on a path to become more conscious, and to me that's that's a guiding principle. Being seeking out growth, new perspectives, and finding joy in what you're doing. Really finding something that you love, that becomes your life purpose, and putting all your energy into that. I think that's a good way to live for me.
Talking about consciousness, and what would you say? What for a role does psychedelics play in the relationship with the health and well-being of a human being, or to grow in consciousness?
Yeah, I think it has a huge potential. There's so many studies out there now. How to Change Your Mind, that best-selling book, and Netflix series. We have never seen anything developed by humanity that can have as profound impact on mental health and personal growth and well-being as we've seen in now all these different studies. So it's extraordinary. We can see, from the tests of treatment-resistant depression, how effective they are. We can see, these kinds of studies being expanded around the world for all kinds of mental health issues, and also more and more for personal growth and wellness. we're seeing that many of these compounds, including, let's say, psilocybin, ketamine, ayahuasca, have strongly neuroregenerative characteristics, where we can really look at brain scans and see neural regeneration happening, which is just extraordinary. And I think that we're also seeing a lot of this in the biohacking and longevity world, where we're seeing that obviously one of the greatest challenges is to really stay mentally healthy, not just keep the body going. And some of these protocols that have been developed, from the Stamets microdosing protocol, looking at lion's-mane, psilocybin, and so on, the results are extraordinary. Healing for the nervous system, well-being, emotional well-being, physical well-being. So it's incredible. And then personally, going through psychedelic experiences can be incredibly eye-opening, right? It's a really very, very powerful tool that we have at our disposal now.
I love to remind myself back on past January in Davos at the House of Trust, where we had the honor to host Paul Stamets. And it was super inspiring, all his wisdom and knowledge that he shared. And he revealed something that I was not aware of. He shared about case study and proofs that he had achieved that natural mushrooms were able to heal stuff like where we had during COVID. And then he told this crazy story in front of the audience, how governments tried to shut him down and to mute him. And so powerful and inspiring, and also shocking how powerful pharma industry is today. We have such a powerful thing with nature, with many healing powers. But yeah, it's for free, and that's why it's not profitable. It's not a profitable business. And
that's a major challenge with nature-based solutions, is that they're abundant. They can't be patented, right? And when you have an entrenched industry like the pharmaceutical industry that makes money on selling treatments, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to embrace these nature-based solutions, which are really abundant and accessible. I mean, the extraordinary thing is a lot of the healthiest things for us are completely free, right? Fasting, right? I remember in one of your events, we had a venture capitalist with a biohacking longevity kind of group of businesses, and he said, don't even bother with all the stuff that we're selling you unless you fast, right? It's so fundamental. But who's going to really be promoting that? Drink water, breathe, right? Breath work is part of all kinds of biohacking protocols. All these things, the best things for us are totally free. All these amazing, fruits and vegetables, that anyone can have access to. So yeah, that's why the challenge is for us to just become educated, because it's just about education. It's just about people realizing that that everyone has access to these incredible solutions for thriving and well-being.
And now now connecting these two topics that we just started to have. On one side, the greed and power and money-driven financial industry and the world we live in, and then on the other hand, the power that lies in nature and also in psychedelics. What would you say is psychedelics part of the solution, and what is psychedelics teaching that business never could?
Yeah. So I believe psychedelics are definitely part of the solution in many different ways. From as you mentioned, things that Stamets is doing with microdosing, or other kinds of protocols that are good for brain health. all the way to doing psychedelic assisted therapy, right? Full-on journeys, shamanic journeys, very, very powerful for raising consciousness, for really opening your mind. If you look back into history, a lot of the ancient traditions were based on psychedelics. We've been, as humanity, taking, mushrooms since the beginning of man, and we've certainly traced this back here in our civilization and in others for thousands of years. There's an important thing that happens there. There's a kind of an ego dissolution and kind of a death and rebirth that happens. And that's also part of so many wisdom traditions, whether it's the old Templar rituals or rituals performed in Egypt, this concept of death and resurrection and rebirth, is literally what these ancients went through. Greece, the Temple of Elysium, all of those rituals were part of our society going back a long time, and I think that we can see tremendous benefit of doing this in the right setting. These sacred rituals were not taken lightly. Of course, this was not kind of like a casual thing for someone to go through a journey. And for that, we need the right containers. We need people like Dr. Sam Lee, who you invited from the Heart Protocol, who can really take you through this journey and create the right setting, have the right support and integration. So the work that he's doing and others like him is just extraordinary and powerful and transformative. And I believe that everyone should have the opportunity to do something like that.
I remember after Davos, I wanted to bring my father to have an experience, and my father is old school, and so when I told him on the way where we are going, it was like, stop the car, leave me out. And I then was like, hey, at least go and speak with Dr. Sam. And the outcome was he didn't join. And but what was interesting was the sentence that he said was, I have everything in control. And and I don't have to give away control. And that made me reflect that having control is an illusion. We have nothing under control. It's about surrendering. It's about letting go and trusting a higher force, that we are guided and protected and carried. And then the message from Dr. Sam Lee was that not every human being is meant to make a quantum leap in this lifetime, and that we have to accept every human being on their individual level of consciousness. So shifting a little bit back to business, Alan, because our main target group and purpose here is to inspire the next generation, but also to look critical with our view on the world and say, what are the biggest challenges that the humans are facing, and how can we as entrepreneurs build solutions? So coming from risk management, and one question that I would like to ask you is, what is the single biggest risks that governments, investors, and corporations still fail to understand today?
I think it goes back to ecological risk, right? Really looking at the fact that we could have these cycles that have kept us alive break down and change in dramatic ways can cause such disruption.
So true. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
If nature were a company, what would its financial statement look like?
Well, nature is the most extraordinary company that we have out there right now. Any of the studies that we look at in terms of ecosystem services, the standard ones will estimate that it every year produces, about 1.5 to 2 times the value to humans than the actual world economy. And of course, without it, there would not be any world economy. So it would be the single largest company in the world. It would have only assets and no liabilities, because the beautiful thing is that nature is such an incredibly efficient organization. It's a zero waste organization, right? There is simply no waste. It works with huge amounts of synergy. It has the most diverse range of products and services to help humanity and all other living beings. So it would be the most extraordinary corporation in the world. The problem is nature doesn't price for its services, right? So it provides all this incredible abundance. Nature as well doesn't charge when humanity goes in and vandalizes and destroys its capabilities. So nature doesn't have a kind of a guardian police force to protect it. But in terms of overall viability, it's the most extraordinary organization imaginable.
I love it. Alan, do you believe modern capitalism is broken or simply incomplete?
Capitalism was a huge leap for us. I mean, if you look at the other forms of, centralized, kind of economy, fixed prices and so on, they just don't work. I spent a lot of time at JPMorgan RiskMetrics looking at markets and the intelligence we get from markets. We have in a financial market, you have a decentralized supercomputer of human beings interacting with each other. So it works incredibly well. However, it's incomplete because there are certain things that are not priced in markets, right? We have these things called externalities, carbon emissions, pollution of water, soil, and all those things. And for us to make capitalism work, for the price signals to really work, we have to factor in all the prices that there are, right? And sadly, it is these kind of externalities, especially around the impact on nature, but also human well-being, for example, that are not priced, that are distorting capitalism right now. So I'm a big fan of the natural capital movement, where using these concepts, we look at the value of nature in terms of the ecosystem services that we're getting. Incredibly useful. It doesn't mean that we're putting a value on a tree or a whale to say that, okay, a whale has the impact of drawing down $3 million worth of carbon in its lifetime, therefore is worth $3 million. We're just putting a value on the services that we're getting that we can measure. The actual value of the whale and the tree is way beyond that. But it's a very useful thing for us to see and to make much better economic decisions. I'll give you a very practical example. People have been spending a lot of effort on protecting manta rays in Indonesia. What ended up swaying the government to protect them was the realization that every living manta contributes about $1.6 million to the Indonesian economy from tourists and divers and so on and so forth. Whereas killing one of these things and selling the flesh would produce whatever, $50, right? So by putting that in capital terms, the Indonesian government realized, wow, it's really in our benefit to protect these kinds of species. It's not the reason we should protect them. They're incredible magical animals and we should just do it. But once we look at it from that capital perspective, it makes a lot of sense to people who are operating in the dollars and cents world. So Yeah. So to answer your question, capitalism is an incredibly efficient system, but it's incomplete, and we need to, for it to work correctly, we need to make sure we do not have externalities in that system, to be able to price those externalities. And by the way, not doing that would be a fatal flaw, right? And at the same time as we've seen this unprecedented economic growth over the last 100 years, we've also seen the most unprecedented destruction of our natural resources of our world. Species are going extinct at the rate of, the last mass extinction. We're calling it the sixth mass extinction right now. And most of that has just been accelerated really over the last decades. So while we've created the greatest short-term wealth right now in our generation, we've also created more destruction than the planet has seen in hundreds of millions of years, right? So we need to realize that it's not just a small flaw; it's a fatal flaw if we don't address that. So it's time that we improve capitalism to include other forms of capital than financial capital, natural capital, human capital, for example.
I mean, how often have you heard, Alan, from people that we are too small to play a role? We can't change the system anyway. There are big players with a lot of influence in governments and politics, and I want to point my question into the direction of the normal listener today, the normal entrepreneur or a father of children working 9 to 5. How can we influence and change something? I mean, listening to Elon Musk recently in an interview and hearing that he predicts that it's pretty soon, he mentioned the date, but he's always missing sometimes the date. Also, things happen later on. He was like, soon we're going to have more robots than humans, and we humans will have a universal basic income, or he calls it not basic, but over the basic income, and money will disappear, and it's going to be computing power and energy that will be the currency. I mean, Elon Musk is an interesting human being, putting the vision into the future, and all the robots will then be able to build Mars and whatever. So to not go too far, how can we contribute to a better society and humanity to improve capitalism? Does the current system has to collapse so something new can evolve? What is your view on that?
Yeah. Well, I think we can have a lot of impact as individuals on so many different levels in the way that we consume, right? The biggest, just as a starter for everyone, right? We all go to the supermarket. Well, the global food industry is one of the most destructive industries in the world. I think there was a research report that estimated the total value destruction of the food industry in terms of climate, degraded soils, biodiversity, the whole works, is way larger than the size of the global food industry, like more than $10 trillion, right? So that's one thing we can do every single day. Is this chocolate bar that we're buying contributing to deforestation in Indonesia? So that's just by us being more conscious and making more conscious choices in terms of what we buy, what businesses we support, we already have an impact. Speaking out, right? I mean, we are all, we're all connected to social media where we can share. We can support initiatives. We can lead initiatives. I mean, it's incredible. The power that we have as individuals right now to affect change is absolutely extraordinary. It just takes a will to do that. Can we change the world by ourselves? Of course not, right? So we need to collaborate around really making an impact. That's how change always happens. So I believe that we can make a difference.
Oh, Alan, what would happen if natural capital appeared on every corporate balance sheet tomorrow morning? I mean, our creative mind is such a powerful thing, right? Let's put ourselves into the situation. Tomorrow morning, on every corporate balance sheet, there's natural capital appearing. What would happen?
Yeah, it'd be just pretty incredible if if Google was just as proud of it's the rainforest is protecting and the mangroves is restoring as its really cool office building, for example, which sits on the balance sheet. We would, I think it makes sense. Every company and every individual needs nature to be balanced, right? We breathe out CO2, a tree breathes it in, for example, right? So for us to be balanced, we need to contribute to supporting nature in some way. And companies could easily do this by sponsoring really high quality projects, regenerative agriculture, reforestation, and so on. And having this be on a balance sheet would align the valuation of the company much more with the overall health of nature. It's not just a social responsibility, corporate social responsibility cost item, but you've actually invested in a project that is producing these returns that we're getting in terms of ecosystem services and so on and so forth. So it would align us much more with the planet. I think it would be an amazing thing to do. We would probably change a lot of our practices as well. Figure out, okay, what are ways that we can reduce our footprint. Essentially, the approach that I've been advocating with Earth Positive is quite simple, right? It's leave the Earth better than you found it. Measure your footprint. Walk lightly. Don't have a big footprint, but measure it. And then have a handprint that's bigger than your footprint, right? And your handprint is really your natural capital asset, for example, in that balance sheet. And it's really, how all indigenous wisdom is operated in this idea of reciprocity with nature. We take from nature, we take the fruits from nature, gratitude, and then we give back. We plant a little seed, of the fruit that we ate, and take care of the, of the tree, right? So we're just working in this principle of reciprocity. We're taking and we give back.
I mean, what comes to my mind is this beautiful test that I saw with children, and they were handed over ketchup, and they weren't aware that it's tomato. We live in such a consuming world, right? That we forget where things come from. There is no connection to nature anymore, and everything is available 24/7 without thinking about where does it come from or how can I contribute back. It's just consuming and way less giving back to the ecosystem. Now, Alan, my next question would be, how would an Earth positive economy actually look like?
Well, an Earth positive economy fundamentally is a regenerative economy, right? So the one way I put it is that an extractive economy values death, whereas a regenerative economy values life. So a forest is not just worth the timber it produces, right? When a tree is cut down, the fish in the ocean are not just worth something when we take them out of the ocean and put them on the dinner table. The fish in the ocean have tremendous value. The forests that are living have tremendous value. And by recognizing the value of life, the incredible value of life, we would be much more careful about the careless kind of destruction that really erases value, and become much better stewards. One friend has characterized what's going on in the Amazon as what did he call it? It's like burning Rembrandts to cook lunch, right? So when you destroy a pristine biodiverse rainforest in order to herd cattle there, you're going to make some money from the cattle business, but the overall value destruction is similar to as if you're using Rembrandt paintings to cook your lunch, right? So those kinds of distortions would stop, and people would start to realize, wow, especially countries in the global south like Brazil, Peru, and other countries which have such incredible natural resources. That wow, they have incredible wealth in this natural capital, and that would be recognized. They would become natural capital superpowers. I think that this would create incredible long-term wealth as well for people. The current GDP metrics are just too short-term focused. One of the meetings we were together in Co, I remember there was an advisor of a government that explained to us that while the president was very proud of the high GDP numbers that they reported over a decade, he had to report to them that actually, if we factor in the forest destruction that went into creating that GDP, it doesn't look that great, right? To give you an idea of the kind of transformation we would see, just look at the country of Costa Rica, right? It went from one of the most forested countries in the world, 70% forest cover, to almost destroying all of its forests. I think it went down to 23% forest cover. There was boycott Costa Rica, don't buy Costa Rican beef. They were really regarded as, doing terrible things. And now, they're a thriving ecotourism hub. They're called the Switzerland of Latin America. And what they did was put nature on the balance sheet, quite simply, right? They were like, okay, first, let's prohibit destroying more rainforest, but also let's give benefit to those people who are protecting and replanting forests. There's a climate impact. Trees draw down carbon. There's a water cycle impact. Trees are important for watershed management. So we will price a little bit from all the carbon emitting industries, tanking up your gas, for example, and a couple of cents will go to protecting forests from that, and from your water supply, a couple cents will go to that. Not in any prohibitive way, but it's enough of an incentive. Let's say about $100 per hectare of reforestation. That was enough for them to stop the deforestation, reverse it to now over 50% forest cover, while creating incredibly high value industries. It's an absolutely thriving, amazing place. That's the kind of transformation that we can see. We're not by this argument that if we look at natural capital, that would eliminate all these great resources we can't just chop the trees down. Because we recognize that they're more valuable, and therefore we'll live in poverty and not have enough resources. It's the opposite. Everyone becomes more thriving, and we're just much more intelligent about how we allocate the capital.
Alan, I would love to live in a world where investors are not seeing impact investing as charity. I would like to change that. What are investors still getting wrong about climate and biodiversity?
Well, it's, I think there are very few investors who actually look at climate and biodiversity as investment assets. There are a few. There's a great JPMorgan report actually on their projected returns on various nature-based solutions, everything from wetland restoration to afforestation. The returns that they forecast are certainly way above what we can expect to happen in traditional markets, but they come at high risk. But it really has not become an easily investable asset class yet, right? Every project is unique. You can't just go and buy an ETF of these kinds of things. Every project has its unique risks. It needs a lot of due diligence. There are a lot of bad projects there as well, scam projects and so on and so forth. So there's a high barrier to entry, to be an investor in that space. And there's not a lot of liquidity, right? What we really need is actually companies to step up and to be serious about their net zero commitments and buy high quality carbon credits and later on biodiversity credits when they come online. And when we have, when that happens, the value of all of these projects then increases tremendously. And that will then incentivize more investable projects out there. So we really need to see more demand on the corporate side for projects to be de-risked as well. But if we just look at the companies currently that have made commitments to go net zero, that alone means we have a massive undersupply in projects out there. And the implication is, okay, there's a commodity that's going to be in really big demand, going down the projected demand. We need to invest in a huge number of these projects to be viable. That was the idea around, Vlinder, which is focusing on mangrove restoration. Just doing the math and calculation, we have a massively undersupplied market, and it's an incredible opportunity for entrepreneurs to do ecosystems restoration type of projects that are high quality, and investors who have an understanding of those kinds of of those kinds of projects to be able to invest in, I think, quite very, very profitable long-term projects that also heal the world.
Now, Alan, for all the founders who are listening today, what are the metrics? What are the criteria that you're looking at when it comes to investing in a project?
So in terms of looking at, I've made a few angel type of investments, including in yeswetrust and other kinds of impact ventures. And for me, the most important thing is really, the founder and the level of consciousness. And if the founder is really purpose-driven, to me, that's super important. That's the most important factor in the whole entire equation. There's so much more there, of course. Does the concept actually make sense? Is there actually a product market fit? Will people buy what this company is actually producing? All that kind of stuff. But the fundamental thing really is, why are you starting this company? What's really driving you? What are your motivations? So that's what I look at the most.
It's beautiful, and it resonates with what we are building, or what we have built in the School of Impact. One of the 5 pillars in the School of Impact is Ikigai, find your purpose. And Alan, why did you decide to give also back as a mentor for the next generation? Why have you decided to share your experience and knowledge with the next gen?
It's an important thing to do for us to help the next generation that's doing really important work for the planet. I think anyone who's dedicating their life towards impact is doing incredibly important work, and anyone who can help with that should do that. And I'm really happy to always have discussions with you and help wherever I can.
Thank you, Alan. Because I love to ask Beautiful and inspiring questions. One of the questions I'm keen to know from your side is, Alan, if you would had 1 billion to deploy tomorrow, where would you invest in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, there's so much you could do with that. I would probably spread it out into amazing ecosystem service types of projects. I mentioned to you where the impact can easily be several hundredfold, even conservative. The impact, it's astronomical. There's a lot of other incredible nature-based solutions out there, everything from kelp, seaweeds, wetland mitigation. I would focus on these kinds of critical keystone ecosystems. So in terms of my expertise, it really is in mangroves and wetlands, which are so systemically important because they are biodiversity sanctuaries, right? They are vital for coastal resilience. So much life. Quite simply, put it into the most incredible mangrove restoration projects, which then, in some cases would have some other elements to it, such as seagrass meadow restoration, for example. But these wetlands are really, really important for us. If you look at the oceanic system, we have really 80% of the carbon cycle being driven by the oceans, and about half of that is concentrated in this really thin sliver of coastal ecosystems. So it's just a super, super hot spot. Mangroves particularly have been deforested at 3 times the rate of rainforests. They're at risk of extinction, and they're just so important. When they collapse, the whole ecosystem goes down, right? They filter the water. Without the mangroves, the water is polluted. The seagrasses, cloudy water, then smothers the seagrasses, which requires clear water to photosynthesize. Seagrasses are incredible. They produce so much oxygen. It bubbles the water. They're incredible carbon sinks, even more powerful than mangroves, actually. But yeah, they go down. Then next, the coral reefs collapse. They're like the biodiversity kindergarten. And the cycle just continues. And inland, without the shield of the mangroves, then storms will destroy the rice fields, coastal infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So you have a total systemic collapse of just this one. It's like the headstone in this entire ecosystem. So yeah, I would put into mangroves. Find $1 billion for me.
Alan, yesterday we had our School of Impact call, our weekly call with the founders from the current cohort. And there are so many amazing, impactful ventures and founders out there, but I see that they are struggling to raise capital. What would be one single advice that you would give a founder when it comes to fundraising that nobody gives?
Yeah, no, I would first just commiserate that it is really tough. The ideal situation is to really find someone who believes in you, who has some expertise in the field that you're embarking in. There was this very nice ecosystem, of course, around Stanford University, where there are these professors, Larry Page and Sergey Brin could just go to one of the computer science professors who was really successful at his venture and go, "We've got this idea," and he goes, "Great, here's $100K to get started with." So there's certain ecosystems where there are people like that, and I think that's what makes Silicon Valley so powerful. Not just that there's these huge VC firms out there, but that there's some very successful entrepreneurs who've personally backed young founders. I'd like to see more of that happen in Europe. Obviously, there was so much wealth creation in Silicon Valley that that would happen. In Switzerland in particular, there are incredible amounts of assets. There's a lot of wealth there. And maybe some of that wealth could be unlocked from these incredibly wealthy individuals and family offices that you have. So I see more and more interest, certainly by Europeans around impact. The realization that money alone isn't going to bring fulfillment if we have a degraded planet. So I think unlocking that wealth would be really great for the people in Europe and Switzerland in particular.
You just gave me the hint for the next question. The risk adversity or risk appetite in the US is so different than in Europe. And I recently, a week ago, I saw a statistic how many projects are invested in Europe in total from VCs and how many in the US. And the number is multiple times higher in the US. And Europe is a bit more conservative, especially also Switzerland. They don't jump in just into an idea. They want to see traction. They want to see a project moving, and then they jump in to minimize the risk. How can Europe keep up with the US? How can we engage family offices and investors in Europe to be taking more risks?
Yeah. I think hopefully there should be much more kind of understanding now. When you look at the success of the kind of venture funding in the United States, everyone's aware of that we need more of that in Europe. So I think there is more awareness of that. For entrepreneurs specifically, quite a lot of entrepreneurs actually just move to California and do their thing. A bit more difficult now with the visas and the whole government administration. But another reason, to do it more at home. So I hope there's more of a light that goes off on that. Venture capital has been incredibly successful at generating incredible returns as well. That should be a significant investment bucket for any kind of family office. It should be an allocation, and not just investing in U.S. venture types of firms. When you look at these kinds of investments, they're of course very, very risky, especially in the angel and startup area. But the fact that you can diversify this means that you could justify an asset class allocation by family offices into those kinds of funds. So hopefully there'll be a few that will move that way. I know that Switzerland has quite a few progressive investors as well. I remember back in the day meeting a family office that they convinced the other partners that they should put 1% into Bitcoin, and because that's what they're paying for banks and fees anyway. And that ended up being 40% of their portfolio at some point. That's a good example that happened there. So hopefully we'll see more of that in Switzerland and in Europe more broadly.
Yes, I mean, I see it twofold. On one side, it's about the network of capital that we have established so far, and to continue to build up this network of high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals and family offices who definitely are also profit driven, but there is also a drive for purpose and impact. And on the other hand is to be by ourselves with yeswetrust a catalyst where we can generate millions and millions of revenue through the revenue of School of Impact and deploy own seed funding for early stage projects. And then after the 8 weeks cohort, the vetting process, go to our network of investors and say, hey, we by ourselves have participated in this project. We have vetted the founders and the project. Here are the best 6 projects from our cohort, and this is your chance to participate. Now, Alan, talking, because we are Swiss and we are already over time, there are 2-3 more questions that I would like to ask you.
Okay.
Number one is, why do you love surfing? What has the ocean taught you about leadership and life?
So I've just always been an ocean lover. Incredible flow there. I find the ocean to be so healing, and yeah, lots of life lessons out there in the surf. You need to figure out where to be. It's really important to be at the right spot, you're very present, very, very present, feeling the ocean, and then catching the wave is just an incredible thrill. There's it's an incredible feeling of flow, I think that that's one of the highest performance states to be in, a state of flow. So it gives me that, I think that the ocean is a great teacher in many ways.
Mm-hmm. In a few weeks, we're going to be in Portugal hosting the House of Trust event, 10, 11, 12 of July. Unfortunately, you're going to be in California by then. But if we make it before, Alan, I would like to try and surf a wave with you at Praia Grande, and get into this flow and mode. Now, 2 more. What would you most hope humanity gets right over the next decade?
Yeah, I really hope that we start to act on the planet, and start to adopt regenerative agriculture in a massive way, as well as protecting our vital ecosystems, because we're reaching these tipping points, and the time to act is now. Whatever we do in the next decade will have repercussions for the next millennia. So it's a really, really important time to get our act together. And I'd like companies to step up and support natural capital in a significant way.
If you could leave founders with one sentence about money, success, and impact, what would it be?
I'll share RiskMetrics credo. It was quite simple. Change the world, have fun, make money, in that order, right? So think big, really aspire to make an impact, change the world. Realize you're going to fail, and so you're going to have to really have a lot of fun, so you keep on trying again and again. It's so important to have that culture there. And the make money part is the third part. Figure out a way to make money, but the priority really needs to be change the world, have fun, and the money will really come.
Alan, I thank you so much for your time, for sharing your wisdom and knowledge today with us and the audience. I'm looking forward for the next decade ahead of us, and I appreciate you, and I wish you an amazing evening. For all the listeners, we see each other next Tuesday, 7 p.m. to the next House of Trust live stream edition. Until then, wish you a blessed and wonderful week, lots of success. And Alan, hug you soon in Portugal, my friend.
All right. Thanks so much, Steph. All the best.
Thank you, guys.